Mick, I'm in need of a boost.
Mate, I think you look fantastic. Your guitar playing's on top form. You're obviously taking your vitamins and working out every day.
Oh my goodness, hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here, hello.
Raucous.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No.
I thought I was going to go to both amps when I hit out one, but I got ahead of myself.
Either one of these two.
Right, nice.
Yeah.
Boost then.
Boost.
Yeah.
So we filmed this morning and did some interesting drives. We thought, you know what? We also have some really interesting boost pedals that have come in.
Yeah. Before that, some housekeeping.
Indeed. First of all, thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, if that takes your fancy. Also, a massive thank you to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed some merch.
Indeed, thank you. Buy merch. It's what predominantly funds the show. What also helps fund the show is thatpedalshop.com in the US. If you're in the US and you want to buy pedals, accessories and things like that, hit thatpedalshop.com.
Indeed. Okay.
Nice.
Let us begin.
Right. Question. We've done shows on boosts before, different types of boost, why you might want to use a boost. Let us revise the second question, Daniel. Why might you want to use a boost?
Number of reasons, but primarily to make things louder.
Yeah.
More.
I think probably the most common use of a boost is to push an amplifier from one place to another.
Indeed.
Or indeed a pedal from one place to another, usually associated with a little bit more gain, but not always, as we'll get into. Boosts tend to work well. Well, they work well all over the place, but to generalize a little bit, they tend to work well where your standard average overdrive pedal maybe doesn't work quite so well.
Indeed.
So if you've got, for example, we have two amps today. We've got a Marshall 50 watt Plexi, which is on the edge of overdrive.
Yep.
We'll get to that in a minute. Actually, it will go into overdrive. And we've got a Fender Deluxe Reverb, which is also right on the edge of overdrive.
Yeah.
So we take our clean or slightly overdriving tone and we make it much more overdriving without getting too heavy elsewhere, which we'll get into. I guess the other big question with boosts, and we'll get into it with specific reference to the IK Multimedia Z-Tone, is about preserving signal integrity over long cable runs, which is about
that impedance and buffers and all that stuff.
Yeah, and lots of people use buffers to do that job, and surprise, surprise, you often see boosts and buffers in the same box.
Indeed.
Lastly, I guess you would use it as a very overt tone shaping device.
Yeah,
And Dan's got a new toy.
I do. First time we've ever had a Pete Cornish pedal on the show. And I've wanted one of these forever. And finally, it has materialized. It's been willed into existence.
Yeah.
There it is.
Indeed it has. So we finally made the acquisition. We've also got an overdrive pedal on here to talk about boost and overdrive pedals.
Indeed.
Paisley Drive by Wampler, and chosen because it can do a nice open sort of overdrive, but also can do the tube screaming thing.
Yeah.
And some delay and reverb.
Indeed. Indeed.
Where should we start then, Dan?
Let's start. Oh, go on then. Let's start at the top. Let's move from right to left. So
I knew it.
I've got to do it. This is a treble booster. It's accentuating a very specific set of frequencies. So if you think of a generally make louder device, what we're doing is saying no thanks to most of the frequencies. We've got a very specific set of frequencies that work really well with feedback and stuff. And so anyway,
Here is our Marshall Sans pedals. Pretty drivey. Mm-hmm. It's using a Palmer power pad attenuator so that we can get the amp itself driving and not blast our ears off.
indeed.
But it is still pretty loud. Behold what happens when you turn the treble booster on, set to the appropriate 2 o'clock. Almost entirely inappropriately named.
Indeed.
Because it's actually rolling off quite a lot of upper treble or boosting it so far into overdrive that
It's just compressing.
it dulls.
Exactly.
And it's boosting, upper mid frequencies, isn't it? I just want to turn it down a sec just to see if any of that high end comes back.
Sure. But if we just quickly hear that same thing into the Fender. It's just voiced so
Perfectly.
perfectly.
You hear the real mid frequency notes that it put on the Fender.
Amazing.
I'll try that with a Lester in a minute. It's almost Coptoir,
Yeah, right.
isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a little bit too much for my ears. But of course, where we might prefer it.
Oh man.
I can't wait to hear it into Dan's Vox. Because even then, it's all Brian May, isn't it? It's Brian May's frequencies.
Yeah, well, that's the one he uses.
Is it?
You know, Brian May has got a bunch actually. I think Greg Fryer fills them for him.
Yeah.
But originally, if you see it, his old Cornish board, that's the circuit.
That's the circuit.
Yeah. But look, thank you for indulging me. I just wanted to hear that in amongst the rest of the boosters. So
yeah. It's killer. It's killer.
Yeah, I'm delighted.
It's totally killer. Glad we got to hear it. Yeah. Okay, let's move on then. So the way that the treble booster works is it's a germanium transistor or some kind of transistor?
It'll be some sort of transistor, a single transistor, and just boosting, all the bottom end taken out with an input capacitor, and then these are the frequencies we're just going to go.
Yeah, so very much not like a traditional overdrive pedal circuit.
Indeed.
It's more like a fuzz in a way.
Yeah, that transistor, when pushed, will break up and do its thing. So you heard even into the Fender, when you crank that thing up, it starts overdriving and sounds really beautiful. So it's not clean all the way up. It will start to go beyond its, the design of the transistor. It'll start to go beyond what it can do cleanly, and that transistor will start overdriving.
Yeah, so it runs out of headroom and starts overdriving. So that's one way to do it, and we know that there are different types of treble boosters out there, some which you can manipulate the EQ, some which you can't, etc., etc. It's a sound used famously by Brian May, equally famously by Rory Gallagher, and many, many others. If we move along the circuit, the board, newish from Blackstar is the Dept.10 series of pedals using vacuum tubes, using valves.
Yeah.
And using them at a respectable voltage.
Yes.
Because there are some low voltage valve pedals out there, which some people argue don't really use the valve to its full potential.
Sure.
You can discuss that in the comments section. Here we've got 250 volts. It's running. It's an ECC83 12AX7 type valve. And those of you will know that is a dual triode valve.
Yes.
Which means it has two stages.
Yep.
Which means we have two stages of boost. In addition, Baxton Dahl EQ, which is a sort of interactive bass and treble control, which we'll get into, and loads of boost. Dan?
Lovely.
So it's really, really, really pushing that Marshall into heavier and heavier overdrive. Let's have a listen to it under the Fender for a second.
Lovely.
Really nice. I want to try something with the Strat. We touched on buffers earlier, and if you want to know more about buffers, please watch one of our previous shows on buffers, which explains what they are. One effect of having a buffer in the circuit is that for a guitar like a Strat, for example, which when you turn the volume down can get pretty dark, the buffer can help the thing stay bright. Now these are relatively bright pickups anyway, so I don't know if we're going to quite get it, but here we are on the Strat, full whack into the Fender. And if I turn the volume down from 10 down to about 7, not only does it get a lot quieter, it gets a lot darker as well. So I'm going to invoke the boost.
Invoke the boost.
And just see where that leaves us. I'll go from full whack down.
That is driving that deluxe beautifully.
Yeah. And you can manipulate the EQ to decide whether you want more bass and treble, or if you knock them back, you get a bit more of a mid hump. I just want to try that into the Marshall at those exactly the same settings. Really cool.
How great.
That's pretty much everything I want from a boost.
Yeah.
Just keeps the playing dynamics, really works off the volume control, bass and treble EQ, and will overdrive really, really nicely.
Yeah. I think it's a bit softer.
Yeah.
And I think arguably I love the interplay from the volume control and straight into the Marshall with that. I thought that sounded great. All the way up, it might be a little bit soft into an already compressing Marshall. However, into the Fender, that when it's driving, that tiny little bit of softness in the attack just works so perfectly with the Fender.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very nice. There's one final thing I want to check about this. I couldn't work out if it was true bypass or not. So we'll just turn it off and on, and then that should tell us. Negligible.
Yeah, but it's definitely changing something.
We should, if we turn on the Paisley drive just for a second, and then do the same thing, that should tell us. It's pretty subtle.
Very subtle.
Yeah. Non-true bypass pedal with a buffer, even when it's turned off, will help maintain that top end frequency integrity all the way down your cable run.
I wonder if it's a valve buffer though. Anyway,
Yeah,
these questions are more.
yeah.
Very good.
We like that.
Indeed.
Okay, Zio. This is new from Source Audio. Dan and I both got a bit fizzy when we saw this because it's got a bunch of controls on it that make a great deal of sense.
Indeed.
For example, 4 different voices. So what have we got? JFET, Low Cut, Studio, and Eplex, which presumably means Echoplex. We've got, you can decide whether the switch mutes it or turns it on and off. And if you mute, it's also got a tuner out. So if you've got a tuner on your pedal board, you could hit with it selected to mute.
Yeah.
And it would send the signal to your tuner.
Yeah. The idea being there are so many people that love some sort of booster circuit in front of everything.
Yeah.
Especially an Echoplex style preamp circuit. So it gives you the option of having that at the front, but also when you turn it off, it mutes the output, goes to your tuner. Really clever.
Happy days. And then a 3-position tone switch, which we'll hear mapped on. It's so funny with stuff like that. You think, well, it's not doing very much. And then you turn it off. And it's like, yes, it really is doing a great deal. So we're in the Echoplex place at the moment. It's really playable.
Yeah, it's lovely. You hear the difference. The studio seems to have loads more headroom.
Yeah.
It's really fast. The Echoplex has got that mid thing in that circuit.
Yeah, I just want to try that with the old Marshall for obvious reasons.
Indeed.
So Les Paul, Marshall, sorry, I cut across who you were saying.
Yeah, just
more mid.
Yeah, it's quite obvious, the voicing. And things like, JFET going to have a higher input impedance, the nature of those transistors. And it's just, really cool. You hear it and feel as you go through the different circuits. Fantastic.
Yeah, I would say too that you do feel it as much as hear it.
Indeed.
Because the nature of the way those circuits are derived do have direct effect on, for a clean tone, what I was feeling was a great deal of, I don't want to say compression, but it does remove a lot of that punchy straight attack and just makes it feel a little more elastic under the fingers.
Sure.
Let's try the Marshall with the Eplex then and see how we get on.
What the heck?
Okay, that'll do.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try the JFET on exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that different mid-range characteristic. Really cool.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. All analog too. Source Audio are extremely clever. From New Zealand.
Sex Pieces of Fish and 7 Chips.
Source Audio are very clever in the digital domain. This is analog. It's all analog. So, I don't know. Let's say you want to spice up your echo, or you want to do some things that aren't necessarily in straight boost territory. It's a good tool for that too.
It really is. I just do one thing really quickly.
Yeah.
I'm going to add the Echoplex preamp to a really clean delay,
nice.
right? Just so that you can hear.
Do we need the Fender for that?
Yeah, that'd be good. So if you play for me for a sec.
Okay.
We've talked about this quite a bit on previous shows, but the preamp section in the delay is responsible for so much of its color and its feel. So that took the straight digital thing from the collider by adding that preamp in, and it shapes what's going into it. That therefore shapes the repeats, and it it takes that straight sound to like, oh,
We stacked it up with another boost there and did a few other things and turned both amps on. And at that point, it's like, oh god, yeah, this is pretty serious guitar sound at this point.
Yep, mega.
Okay, nice.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Moving along, we did mention tools earlier. We mentioned Boost as a kind of tool, a problem fixer for a lot of things. IK Multimedia, this has been out a little while now, but it's the first time we've looked at it. IK, well known for their software, especially the Amplitude suite of things in the guitar world. They also do other things, obviously, but Amplitude in the guitar world, which is very highly regarded modeling and effects software, computer-based. Hardware pedals.
Yeah, very cool.
There's two versions of this. One is the Z-Tone, which is designed more for live applications, and one the Z-Tone DI, which is more studio-based. And they have more or less the same controls, couple of different things. This one's got an additional boost, which the DI one doesn't have.
Indeed.
But apart from that, what have we got? We've got the regular buffer side.
Yes.
Which has got a couple of options on it, which we'll explain in a minute. It also has balanced DI out. So
very nice.
Those of you going direct, needing a direct to house signal for use in home recording, a balanced signal is a really useful thing to have if you're using it in a DI environment.
Yeah, if you want to reamp guitars later on and you want to take your signal before anything else and stick it in the computer, so you've got a track there.
That's a great shout.
And you've got an earth lift on it as well, so you don't get earth lifts between the pedal and your board and the computer software.
That's a great shout.
Really cool. Really cool.
Good for that. In addition, it's got the extra boost, which we'll hear in a sec. The reason we've put this on is because it's got the variable impedance control.
Yep.
Why is that important, Dan?
So, one thing with when you're getting into buffers and things, and we've done extended shows on this, so if you want to have a closer look at this, go and have a look at the recent buffer shows that we did. But basically, the impedance control at the input of the buffer will basically, it dictates how the guitar is going to react into the buffer, especially if the low impedance drive of that buffer is going to give you some top end that you don't necessarily want in your rig. So that impedance control at the front end enables you to just dial that back. It'll load the pickups a bit more.
Yeah.
And it can be really, really good.
As a sort of example of that, so a guitar is a high impedance environment, right? What comes out of here is high impedance. The reason that balanced XLR is on there is because that is a low impedance output, which will drive a huge amount of cable.
Yep.
And then what happens if we try and drive a huge amount of cable with a high impedance signal?
So the capacitance of the cable is going to start robbing us of our top end. So when the buffer goes in, it basically drives that capacitance. Our high impedance signal becomes a low impedance signal, drives all that capacitance. Lovely. However, there's always a however, right? It doesn't mean that it solves all problems, because there are situations where you don't necessarily want that super low impedance signal.
Yeah, that's one reason why a number of famous players down the years have favoured extra long cables.
Yeah.
Because it does something to their tone that they find advantageous. As we gallop swiftly to the impedance control on here, if you turn the Z-Tone around.
The impedance.
Yes.
So what's cool? It's not a tone control. It's just changing the impedance at the input.
And that will have depending on what you're using it with, either side will have a greater and lesser effect. So one of the things that happens in some of my pedals, for example, I like my tone, like my tone, like my tone. I turn my delay on and everything gets too bright because it turns on a buffer. So you could mitigate some of that. Would it have any effect if you've got something before it, do you think?
Yeah, so if we
turn one of these other boosters on.
So if we turn the treble booster on, I think that's going to have the most effect because of the nature of the treble booster circuit.
Okay.
So let's give that a go.
I might just switch to the Marshall if you don't mind.
Yeah, just so that we can
hear it.
So that we can hear it. I should have known it's a Pete Cornish pedal. Everything's buffered to perfection. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like for example, if you had a normal fuzz face, right, and that has a high impedance output.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Of course. Just think, of course. I guess what we say at this point, bravo for the transparency of it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We were expecting more difference than that. So that's got to be good. Let's hear the boost then. Actually, let's just hear the difference between the pure and the J-FET.
Okay.
So the J-FET's brighter sounding.
Yeah, so the J-FET, the nature of the J-FET transistor, they've got a really high impedance. So that will give us more of that difference.
Okay. It's still nicely transparent, so let's just hear the boost then.
It's like a studio tool on your pedal board.
It is much more tooly, as it were. More a shaper and an overt tool rather than a tone changing device, which is what all the others have been so far.
Yeah, great.
They've been character adders. I think that's more of a problem solver.
Yeah, indeed.
And I guess read what we said earlier about certain types of pedals before and after, it might start making much more difference in that environment.
Sure.
Plus, of course, you've got the direct XLR out. So
fabulous.
Okay.
Last one.
We
had to include this because this was an absolute revelation when we heard this.
Yeah.
It's the Heavy Water by our dear friend Thorpy.
Yeah, it came into being because it's the right-hand side of it, as you look down from the top, is the boost side from the Dane, the Danish Pete pedal. The left-hand side is that with a bit of extra clipping in it, as I understand.
Okay.
And they can be used together or independently.
But it's a double boost. It's a double boost.
Here's what it sounds like, Dan, with everything on 0.
Okay.
Go for it. What did you do there?
Just turned on both amps.
Okay, right. We'll get there. We'll get there. Just into a Fender Deluxe Reverb.
Oh my goodness.
Look, in the knob settings as the good Lord intended. Here's the Deluxe Reverb with no heavy water. And for the first time in the video, I did have to turn the input gain on the Fender down because it was just
Right.
knocking the mics out. And sorry, Dan, as you were, both amps.
Honestly.
The downside is that if you've got a high headroom amp, even with those boost knobs on 0, it's a huge lift.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you play I think we've sent the Deluxe a bit doolally. If you play with a high headroom amp and you step on it, it could well be too loud.
Sure.
So really hitting a higher, an amp that's overdriving a bit is really where it's utterly magical.
Yeah.
But as with the Deluxe, we've got it on that point where whatever you're stuffing in the front will definitely push
react
it into heavy overdrive. It's really killer.
It really is. It's
really, really killer, and we like it a lot. But I think in terms of straight boosts into tube amps, I'm happy with.
It's dying.
It's like, these are my last breaths.
Thank you for giving me this wonderful life.
I'm off. Boom. Hopefully there'll be flames before the end of the video. I'm happy with the Blackstar, the Z-O, and the Heavy Water.
Yeah.
The Cornish is a very specific thing.
Yep.
And the Z-Tone is a tool, I would say.
Totally.
It does sound good. It definitely gives you a good boost when it's boosted. But I think the others, in terms of character, in the world that Dan and I live, which is tube amps on the edge, just happy days with any of those other three.
Yeah.
Happiest of days, in fact.
Yeah. I'm a massive treble booster fan, and we've got a few more treble boosters, so we're going to do another show on them because there's a whole bunch more to look at. But it's easily up there with my favorite treble boosters I've ever heard, and I've got to put it head to head with my fave,
the Dirty Mac and
Dirty Mac and that stuff, to see where it sits, because it's just wow.
Yeah, I must admit I'm not a fan of treble boosters, and I instantly like that. So
yeah. But as far as for the other stuff, the Blackstar into the Fender, I think was magical. I love the way that pushed that.
Yeah.
The Ronnie James Z-O, those options on there are so powerful.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're recording, and whether you needed to manipulate the input to the delay, whether you need a certain amount of clarity, or
yeah,
it's so great. It's so impressive.
I kind of want one of these up front and that one on the end.
Right.
The Heavy Water on the end, post everything.
Yeah. As a boost, because that first time we ever kicked that on, it was like, oh, okay, it's got the clarity, the definition, phenomenal.
Yeah. And again, wonderful for those rollback strap clean tones. There's one thing we should, in an educational manner, do before the end of the video. As you'll see, Dan's got boost into drive and drive into boost there. So we'll just do a really quick section using the Paisley drive on what happens if you hit an overdrive pedal with a boost, and what happens if you put the boost after the overdrive pedal. Because I think one of the main questions that lots of people ask is, where do I put that boost on my board? Hopefully this will help.
Indeed.
Shall we pick a boost at random?
Sure.
Which one, Dan?
Let's go with the Blackstar.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to literally set up a sound using the Blackstar. Shall we go into the Fender amplifier? Because I think that will illustrate the point most. Sure. Because the Fender's slightly higher headroom in the way we have it set today, this will illustrate the point. So we'll set up an overdrive sound on the Paisley drive there from Wampler, and then we'll boost into it.
Yes.
And what are we expecting from that?
Well, we're expecting more gain because the Paisley drive is already clipping. It's taking out input signal and it's clipping it. So with the boost into the drive, we are increasing that amount of input signal. Therefore, the amount of clipping is going to increase.
Yeah, might get a bit louder, but shouldn't get massively louder, he said. rather illustrates the point.
Yeah.
What have we just learned?
Well, it does a different job depending on where you put it in your chain. If you put it at the start, you're going to get more gain from your overdrive pedal with the boost. If you put it at the end, and it's going into an amplifier that can handle the increased in input volume, then you're going to have a make louder device.
Was that just a Fender?
Just a Fender.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear it both?
You can do this, and I'm going to swap the boost from the Blackstar to the Zio.
Okay.
All right. We'll go with the Echoplex setting. We'll go with bright. Everything up. Happy days. So all I've got to do is press this button here, yeah?
Just press that button there.
All right, so let's start with the overdrive tone. What I love is 107 dB of feedback, Dan. I really love that. Hopefully that illustrates the point. If you're running a really high headroom, clean pedal amp, that difference would be stark.
Indeed. Yeah,
As both of
indeed.
these amps are on the edge of overdrive, the difference is less, but it's still pretty massive.
Yeah, yeah. Especially if you hear the difference in the gain in the Marshall, but because that a bit more headroom in the Fender.
The Fender just went,
goes,
hello.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Magic.
conclusion, if you want richer, thicker overdrive, more harmonics, not too much extra volume, boost first, overdrive second. If you want solo boost, get louder, take your sound of your overdrive pedal and just make it louder and bigger with a bit more extra harmonics and all that.
Boost last.
After overdrive.
Yeah.
That was energizing, Daniel.
It was indeed. How lovely. That yeah, really impressive stuff.
Yeah, happy days.
Wonderful. Brilliant.
And also a reminder that maybe you don't need a high gain overdrive. Maybe a couple of boosts stacked into one another is a very, very lovely place to be.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Sorry, I just think I'm going to leave that in there. That's hilarious. Let me do it again. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. We really appreciate it. A massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon.
Thank you.
And also a massive thank you to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com.
To buy merchandise, please do that. It's the primary way we fund this show. It keeps the lights on. It keeps us trucking. Also, if you go to thatpedalshop.com in the United States of America, if you're in the USA, we sell pedals and stuff there. So you can go and buy pedals, accessories, and all of that stuff from thatpedalshop.com, which is also a very useful source of income to keep this show going. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on Monday for viewers' comments and questions.
Indeed. We can
5
talk
p.m.
about boosts.
UK time.
GMT.
GMT. Perfect.
In the winter.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon.
Bye.